Zoo crew, welcome to the SportsZu and SportsZu Recreations, as this is attempt number 2 of me trying to ride every single ride in Walt Disney World in one day at some point in 2025. And today it is May 21st, 2025, just 1 week after my last attempt on May 14th, where I got 47 out of 50 rides, and I caught some bad breaks with the Walt Disney World Railroad and Tiana's Bayou Adventure breaking down right when I got there. Then I got stuck on both Soarin' and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. So let's see if I learned anything from last time and can catch some breaks to ride all 50 rides. I am very first in line today. You cannot beat that. So I guess we're just gonna get ready, scan on in, and walk fry speed all the way to that bridge and meet up with these cast members.
All right, I'd say we're in good shape.
Hi, travelers, please do not run. Come with me, my friend. I'm gonna fall behind my friend. You're right.
Okay, thank you.
And you can see that I am very first in line today. Absolutely cannot beat it. So we're ready to go. They let us in pretty early and we're on our way. And look at that, even with the bridge, everyone converging, I'm still first. And here is our Ride Every Ride challenge today. It's the same as last week. We've got the same number of rides, all 50 of them. We've got to knock them out. But we're off to a great start as we walk into Flight of Passage here. And so we're looking to do the same thing. We can see here that I am now inside already at 7:32. That is pretty good. So we are on our way into that vehicle to become a avatar ourselves, so that should be pretty exciting. And there's our first photo. We've got to take a pic of ourselves on every single ride for it to count for our Parkeology challenge here today, which is the most difficult version of this particular challenge. So here we are on Flight of Passage on the first ride. So not much to know here. We're gonna hop off of this and head on over to Navi River Journey as soon as this ride is over. And we're just getting started today, but it is a very nice start as we get going. Okay, we're off the ride. It's already just 7:46, much better than we did last time. So here we are exiting Flight of Passage, and now you can see just a few minutes later, we are now entering the queue for Navi River Journey. So I remember to get some much better B-roll this time, so let's be sure to take a nice look at this ride, as it was another walk-on here, and we're simply at a much better pace than we were just 1 week ago, as Navi River Journey gives us this beautiful view, but it's not worthy of the long lines that it'll get quickly later in the day. So nonetheless, it's an absolute must to do this early in our journey. And so we will quickly get on and now get off at 8 o'clock in the morning. So very great start. The last time we were on this one, we didn't even get onto the ride until 8:03 last time. So you can see what a huge difference it makes being very first in line on Flight of Passage as compared to the last time when I didn't even make it to the bridge. All right, so that means we are quickly off to Expedition Everest. And it took 5 minutes to get from Navi River Journey to Expedition Everest, so you can certainly see that fry speed kicking in already. But it is nowhere like last time, as we got on just in 1 minute compared to that big delay that we had last time. So I did use my first Lightning Lane multipass. You can see the screenshot of it right here, as you've got to take a screenshot every time you're using a Lightning Lane for it to count in Parkeology. So you can see here we have lightning lanes, that's our LLs listed in the lower right hand corner of the screen. And I guess after doing this 2 times, I would recommend not using lightning lanes at all in Animal Kingdom when starting there in the morning, because it doesn't really help, because you aren't going to need them for Everest and for Dinosaur. So it's easy enough for us to get onto Cali and then the safaris later in the day and pick up those lightning lanes then, so we'll be perfectly fine doing it there. So off to Dinosaur we go, and no issue here either, as it was yet again a walk-on. Now the path is cut off now from Dinosaur from the main entrance into Dino Land, but for our purposes today, the right way to go to get from Everest to Dinosaur is still open, so that helps. It's just a little bit more congested of a walkway than it used to be. All right, so now we are getting off of Dinosaur and we're heading out of Animal Kingdom. You can see what we've knocked off here with our red lines through, and we're heading on over to Magic Kingdom. But of course, we will be back shortly. So here's the thing, we made great time into Magic Kingdom Day in less than half an hour. I'm listing it as 27 minutes because I have a recurring theme of forgetting to video myself entering the park, but that's okay. We're gonna make our way right back over to Buzz Lightyear here because our key for getting on to the Magic Kingdom very early in the morning is to get onto the Main Street vehicles, but they start at 9 at regular park opening, so we were still in the early entry for resort guests only, and so it made the most sense just to hop onto something quickly here with Buzz. Yes, there was a little bit of a wait to get on them, and yes, I had to walk all the way from Tomorrowland back to the entrance because there were no Main Street vehicles at the castle like we really would have hoped, but that's okay because we are just happy to get this one done as soon as possible so we don't have to worry it, as it's pretty tentative on when they might be running those Main Street vehicles throughout the day. When you're doing the Parkeology Challenge, it is a requirement to ride a Main Street vehicle, any one of them, throughout the day, so you really want to hit them early. So for now, we are going to go back to Tomorrowland, which I admit may be a little bit strange, but we do need to hit a couple rides that will not be open for extended evening hours. So the first of those is the People Mover. We've just got to hit People Mover now so that we make sure we hit it before we leave this first time, since People Mover is not open in extended evening hours.
Alright, space just did not work there. It closed right when I got to do, so that was lovely. Hopefully it'll convert. Do multi-experience varies it.
So you can see there, we wanted to go to Space Mountain next. I had my first Magic Kingdom Lightning Lane there, but as I got to the tap-in spot at Space Mountain, the cast member said that it was now closed, so there was absolutely nothing I could do there. And so we just had to make a call here after making a quick restroom stop. Anyways, so we're going to leave and go on to the Carousel of Progress because just like the People Mover, this one is not open for extended evening hours. But I have to admit our plans have been foiled here as we really wanted to just stay in Tomorrowland for quite a while.
Alright, Tiana, let's go a little faster.
At least we were able to pick up a very nice Lightning Lane Multi-Pass for Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and that means we are off and running to Tiana all the way to the opposite corner of the park, but we got to use it so we can pick up more Lightning Lanes here. So wanted to use that as soon as possible. It was a little bit slow last time, but this time there were no problems this early in the morning, so that was very good. So we did well to get on and then get off at 10:29, which was just 20 minutes from tap-in to exiting the ride. So I thought that was pretty good for us here today.
Alright, we're right on here. Obviously, the train just left, of course. So we've got to wait. Been a rough go. Space Mountain kind of threw off my timing for everything. I was planning on staying in Tomorrowland and then just plopping on over here to Liberty Bell, Tom Sawyer, but it would have been too long of a break without Space Mountain going. So I ran over to Tiana, did that. Now I'm going to take the railroad back, hop on Tron, because I've got the individual Lightning Lane there, so I don't want to miss that, obviously. Then we're just gonna come right on back over here to do those two. Hopefully we'll get on the second ride for the Liberty Bell and then do Tom Sawyer right after that and go. I did get a Peter Pan Lightning Lane multi-pass for $11.20. It was down all morning, so I was hoping it was going to turn into a multi-experience, so I could just use it when I came back with no issues. But if it doesn't re-break out again because it's open again, I'll just have to change it out now and just put on Kilimanjaro Safari so I can get those Animal Kingdom ones, because can't waste any extra time here today. So that's the plan. Let's hope this train comes soon.
All right, we are ready and we're off, and I ended up waiting 9 minutes for the train, and with an 8-minute ride, that took us 17 minutes total to get back to Tomorrowland. That is absolutely not great, not what we were looking for at all, but the railroad is a must-do as it closes early before even the regular park close. So be sure to check the app for the time for the closing on that specific day. But if you are making 2 trips to Magic Kingdom, absolutely you need to make sure to hit it early in that first trip to Magic Kingdom. Otherwise, well, you'd just be left out in the dark. Okay, so that means now we're heading on to Tron for our first Lightning Lane single pass, because you only get 2 for the entire day, so use them wisely. And after 2 fails of getting on this ride in my first 2 attempts, I finally did not waste my money, as I did fail both of the prior times in getting onto Tron at all, so that's a pretty expensive Lightning Lane single pass to miss. So while it is tough to take a good picture trying to get on to this ride, you can see that I'm a complete blur here, as those light cycles are pretty tough and not a normal way to do it. However, fortunately our friends at Parkeology let me do it. Well, as always, plans are subject to change, so I went to Peter Pan next because I really thought I could squeeze this in before the 11:30 trip on the Liberty Bell, and I just couldn't make it to Tom Sawyer Island, get on and get off, and still make it for that 11:30 start. So this was a quick change of plans. I thought it was going to work, and it really did work for me this time, so I'm pretty happy about that. However, the problems came when I got off of that ride, because I got to the Liberty Bell at 11:28, but they were not letting passengers on, and indeed I saw other passengers getting off as there was a problem with operating the Liberty Bell in the morning, so it was not open, so I just decided to go over to Tom Sawyer Island instead, and unfortunately this was my last trip to Tom Sawyer Island on the Tom Sawyer rafts, because, well, they were closing, so this was it. And I have to say, I always enjoyed Tom Sawyer's Island, even as a kid and even as an adult, because there was just so much to walk around and do and see that you just really had a good time, no matter your age. And it was just always a nice, peaceful walk around. Usually not too many other people on that island, so it is a little bit strange that for the purposes of this challenge, you literally just go on the raft, get off, and turn right back around and get on. However, we went back to that Liberty Bell after this. However, it was still not open. I asked the cast member, and they said it was definitely not going to run for noon, but might open for 12:30. However, I simply could not wait this long for it, so we just had to get going, and so we're right back off to Animal Kingdom. We had to go on to Cali River Rapids. Fortunately, I got that Lightning Lane multi-pass. I'm gonna estimate it took me 6 minutes to get from the park entry to the ride, as the tap-in spot with a cast member is way behind the normal standby and Lightning Lane entrance. So that was no problem. We took care of it. We got on the ride fairly quickly, and then after getting off of Cali, we go on Rafiki's Wildlife Express. Really not much to say on this train this time, as I have to say I didn't have any real issues with Lightning Lanes here at this point in the day, so I just picked up Spaceship Earth for us to hop on over to Epcot here pretty soon. So here the Safari initial hour had expired, giving me 3 Lightning Lane multi-pass for Epcot at this point, because I also had Frozen and Mission Space. So I guess you could say I was now fully loaded for Epcot going in. So up next, after getting off of the train, I went over to Kilimanjaro Safaris, and again, not much to say here because we are ready to roll, so let's just take a moment to enjoy the animals. Well, look at that. You can just look and see how cute baby Tucker is hanging out with his mom out on the safari. pretty cool. So the good news is that means we are done with the Animal Kingdom as of 1:30 p.m., which we hadn't even gotten to the Animal Kingdom until 1:12 just a week ago. So I think we're in all right shape so far, but just remember that we still have to worry about that Liberty Square Riverboat later. So now we are off to Spaceship Earth and Epcot, so let's talk travel. I again forgot to video the entry again. Since Spaceship Earth is, however, right inside, I'm going to assume it was just a 2-minute walk to tap into Spaceship Earth, and then one more walk to take that kind of long walk into the ride. What I need to point out here is that Epcot closes at 5:30 p.m. today for a private event. So that usually means throughout the day you're going to have lower crowds because people don't want to go to Epcot on a day where it closes at 5:30 instead of 9 p.m. And that also means I need to take a better route than last time so that I can take as little steps as possible. That means today I'm going to the left side of that giant golf ball and then to the right side. So first we are off to Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, and I absolutely love skipping the standby line here, as today this is my second and last Lightning Lane single pass, as again you only get 2 per day, and while I would love to get them all, well, not the case. However, there is no recording on this ride, so you're not going to get any good footage of this amazing ride, so be sure to take it in yourself. However, I at least got a better selfie of myself than I did on Tron. So let's head on out from Guardian right with a hop, skip, and a jump over to Mission Space. And this is now one of my least favorites due to it always being very slow operationally, and I felt like I always had to wait forever in both of the prior 2 runs. Fortunately today, it was not as bad, but it was still not good, as you're just kind of hanging out in that waiting room with the pre-show, and you don't even have that good 5G connection to worry about switching out those lightning lanes. So again today I took the green training because it just always has lower wait times, so there's simply no sense in going to orange because either one counts for the purpose of our challenge, so we're happy to take the easy route here today. Alright, so now we're getting off of Mission Space. We're going to switch from the left side of the park when you're entering to the right side, and we're going to try to find Nemo, and it only took 5 minutes to switch from that left side to the right side of the park, so I have to say we're doing pretty well with time here, and also with Lightning Lane multi-passes for these smaller rides, as we're still good with that Frozen Lightning Lane multi-pass, but unfortunately no luck with Remy as of now. And with Nemo today, well, I actually did not have any issues with any of the rides stopping, so we just rolled right on through and it was great, and I didn't even take a wrong turn up the escalator this time, so I guess I'm finally learning myself. Up next is Living with the Land as we go to the land building. So we're simply doing Living with the Land first because I just happened to go to the right when I entered, so Living with the Land was a few steps closer. No real rhyme or reason to it either way. I suppose I could have done Soarin' before Living with the Land, and I don't know, maybe it would have been easier, maybe it would have been better, but like I said, I went to the right instead of the left, so this was just the way to go here today. And with Moana coming out in July, it was nice to see a nice little homage there as we got onto the ride. Alright, as we get off of Living with the Land and head over to Soarin', you will quickly see that my ride photo is at 3:46 p.m. So let's just say that I was not focusing on the ride itself, as I had some work to do during this ride. And alas, I ran into an issue here. Fortunately, at least I didn't get stuck on the ride this time, so at least it was smooth sailing, or I guess I should say smooth soaring on the ride itself. But last time, at around this particular time, I was able to get 3 Hollywood Studios rides in close proximity to each other: Tower of Terror, Slinky Dog Dash, and Toy Story Mania. But this time, well, I couldn't get Tower of Terror for some reason that I wasn't sure of yet. But I guess I have to say I forgot to film this time when I got off, so we are going to be mashing to hit that refresh button on the app to see if I could get Tower of Terror, but nope, it didn't happen. I kept refreshing, but no. Unfortunately, we're just gonna have to keep on trying, but we will keep on trucking over to Journey into Imagination with Figment. And of course, we got right onto Journey into Imagination. I did have a lightning lane, but I admit it probably still would not have been needed even in the middle of the day here. But as you can see here, Figment sure can show you how the nose knows with that skunk smell. So yeah, that's not great at all, and a good reason why a lot of people don't really love this ride, but at least for our purposes today, there were no issues with the entire front part of the park. So that is great news. So we are moving on to the World Showcase. And that takes us to the Grand Fiesta Tour starring the three Caballeros as we cross on over to the front left corner of the World Showcase in Mexico. And the Mexico Pavilion is truly amazing. I would say probably the best of them all. It is always nighttime, but it is always pretty darn cool. But for now, we're gonna check out Donald trying to hook up with those ladies yet again, but hey, they really have one banger of a song with their song at the end that you get to hear at the end, so make sure to enjoy it. The Three Caballeros. And of course, the Three Caballeros is one ride that does not have lightning lanes, and this time we got to shave off several minutes because it was back to being a walk-on instead of having us have a 15-minute posted wait that at least turned out to only be half of that time. And now we are on to Frozen, and at least it is right next door, so a very quick walk, and I've been holding on to that lightning lane multi-pass all day long, as I got that lightning lane right after using the very first one of the day on Expedition Everest, and it even had a 2:30 start time there, so if you want to ride Frozen, you really should try to get that one early. And fortunately this time I'm not in a rush because it's not even an hour into the extra time following the posted expiration date, so yeah, this one was worth holding on to all day. And well, look at that, this time I actually was able to film all of Let It Go, so I guess on my third try I am finally not a disgrace to Disney. Alright, as we hop off of Frozen here, we have to make the very long walk all the way to the opposite corner of World Showcase to ride Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. And, well, I wasn't able to get a Lightning Lane multi-pass for Remy, but fortunately, they fairly recently added a single rider line to Remy, so at least you're in alright shape if you aren't able to get that Lightning Lane. And this time you can see it took me 12 minutes today, which I certainly recommend if you don't get that lightning lane. So I would say still try to get the lightning lane because it can be a little bit funky on how they are operating that single rider line. But nonetheless, 12 minutes, not bad for maybe the second most popular ride at this entire park. So can't complain too much here. But while I was making my way from Frozen to Remy, I saw that the Liberty Square Riverboat had reopened, which means I now had to go do it. And today it closes early at 7 p.m., which was the normal time it usually closes, I have to admit. So I had to make a very fast decision. And so the only way that I thought I could make it to Magic Kingdom, ride the ride, and get back was to hop on a Minnie Van. So let's take a moment to stop and talk about those Minnie Vans. Minnie Vans are themed rideshare vehicles that are driven by Walt Disney World cast members, so they are not quite like your standard Uber or Lyft drivers. Otherwise, however, they work just the same as those rideshare services because they are those rideshare services, because specifically Minnie Vans are booked on Lyft. And you book them just like you would book any other Uber or Lyft. But unlike standard Lyft pickups, there are only select locations where you can be picked up and dropped off within Walt Disney World with your Minnie Van. And the most important location for the purposes of this challenge is at the Magic Kingdom because you can be dropped off and picked up at the bus stop that is right beside the park entrance. And that means you can and should skip the transportation and ticket center with a minivan because we cannot afford to take any longer than possible to ride a monorail or a ferry. That is really a big waste of time for us. And as convenient as a minivan is, it is equally or even more expensive. As my trip today from the convention center just outside of Epcot to the Magic Kingdom was $49.40, and then my ride from the Magic Kingdom back to Epcot at its regular bus stop is $39.52. So that was nearly a $45 average per ride. And even though it is very convenient, it is not necessarily speedy, as the cast members must strictly follow the rules of the road and of Disney World. So I definitely recommend having your own car instead of the minivan if you have one available, or even renting the car, because taking a minivan for every single stop would be very expensive. Now, the downside for going to Magic Kingdom is that very painstakingly, when you make that final turn into the bus stop at Magic Kingdom, you have to eke along at a mere 5 miles per hour. And when you're in a big rush, like I am in this particular video, well, you can imagine just how absolutely painful that was for me to have to wait and wait and wait to finally get off of that designated spot for exiting. In addition, you can take a standard rideshare vehicle for every other trip between parks that do not include the Magic Kingdom, which I think is a perfect idea to at least save a decent chunk of change going from park to park if you are not able to have your own car during this challenge. But unfortunately, with the big delay that we had with the Liberty Square Riverboat and the need to get there very quickly, well, we simply had no other option but to take this minivan. So let's see if I made it to that Liberty Square Riverboat on time. And you can see me here on my very first minivan ever, so we are off to Magic Kingdom.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. We made the 5:30 Liberty Bell. This is a miracle of miracles, so we have a chance. We're gonna take this lap. We're gonna take another minivan back to Epcot to get my car, and we're gonna go to Hollywood Studios, do the best we can. We're lacking on the lightning lanes right now. We've only got Toy Story Mania and Slinky. Really, I do have a 7 o'clock rock and roller coaster, but it seems that Tower of Terror is the tough one today. I don't know why it didn't have a special moment that we would have expected. So we will fight on and see if we can find it. All right, let's have this lap. Let's do it. Never give up, baby. Let's do this. It's not over yet. Let's go. Liberty Bell 5:30. Miracle. Whew. Okay. I better be seeing some $80 minivan level donations after this one, because that's what we had to do.
But before I take this final lap, I want to point out that the day before I made my final excursion to Muppet Courtyard for MuppetVision 3D and PizzeRizzo, and yes, I got that puffy pizza one last time. And while MuppetVision 3D was the coolest thing I think I ever saw when I went to MGM Studios way back in the 1990s, but I have to admit, over all that time, it got a little bit old and stale as the years went on. But that doesn't mean that I think that MuppetVision 3D should ever go away, because it certainly deserves to be somewhere as the great Jim Henson's final project. So I definitely hope that they are able to reinsert MuppetVision 3D somewhere, and namely, I think it should go right beside Rock and Roller Coaster so that we can get a proper Muppets area. But let's get back to the task at hand, and this was the strangest way to make my final lap on the Liberty Square Riverboat. And since I was trying to get on the ride from 11:30, and it's now about 5:30, I think it could be said that it was a glorious 6-hour finale for me taking this final ride. but I guess I only have a minute and a half to talk about it. So I guess I just want to say here that this ride is fine. It's a nice, relaxing ride that eats up a good chunk of your day, but you just have to know where to find a good seat so you're not getting sunburned in a mere matter of moments. And you also want to make sure that you can hear the narrator, because that is always a key part of this ride. My favorite part of the ride was the Native American encampment, seeing them doing their thing on a daily basis, as you saw one part of it from the Liberty Bell and the other part from the railroad. But this ride is simply not like MuppetVision 3D to me, as the original is still going strong at Disneyland. So I definitely think we should keep the one that is there, and I think we're okay to remove this one, because we simply can't compete with an opening day attraction at Disneyland from 1955, when our version here in Florida was a second day attraction opening on October 7th, 1971. And even though that is very impressive for the Liberty Square Riverboat here in Florida, I focus speed. I am speed. So if that gives us a much cooler land in Disney World with Piston Peak, I think it is simply a great idea to have something new and exciting for us to do, even though that's going to make this challenge here much, much harder very, very soon. But for today, Liberty Bell, Tom Sawyer Island, and Rivers of America, thank you for your service and all the memories. But let's do this one more time and get back to the challenge. All right, let's take that final lap on the Liberty Square Riverboat, and I've got two goals while I'm on this ride. And the first is to make sure I get a Minnie Van back to Epcot, and simply no problem there. And that worked really well with the timing, as I really didn't have to wait at all. Now the second thing was to keep trying to get that Lightning Lane multi-pass for Tower of Terror or Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and I was indeed spamming the refresh button on that app, but nope, unfortunately the entire ride I did not get to enjoy my final lap, and unfortunately, well, no such luck, and we're just gonna have to do our best without it for now. So let's make it all the way back to Epcot. So there's our updated list. I'm off the ride. We're heading on over to Hollywood Studios, but I've got 9 rides and obviously not much time to do it with the park closing at 9 p.m. So we make it to Hollywood Studios after dropping off at Epcot and grabbing the car and making it over. I assume 6 minutes from the park entrance to Toy Story Mania, so you can see the travel time really adding up now at this point. So let's briefly talk about the rule of 119 here. I had a nice, more full version of it in the last video, so be sure to check that out. But you get 1 hour and 59 minutes after the listed expiration time of your Lightning Lane multi-pass to use it. So I had no issues this time, as Toy Story Mania started at 4:20, so it wouldn't actually expire until 7:19 p.m. So I made sure to still go here first, as I just didn't have that Tower of Terror Lightning Lane multi-pass like I had last time, and I was in a very big rush to get on the Tower of Terror. But this time, not an issue, so the plan here was to go counterclockwise to end with Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster instead, so we'll just have to see how it goes. And yes, another underwhelming performance for me there at Toy Story Mania, so we head right on over to Slinky Dog Dash, which is right there. And unfortunately, this time, I guess I don't have anything to note because I did not pick up one of those lightning lanes, so let's just go ahead and show a little bit of me slinking to the end of the ride.
Some momentum.
Here we go!
Alright, so I'm off Slinky and over to Alien Swirling Saucers to finish up Toy Story Land, and of course there was no issue actually getting the Alien Swirling Saucers Lightning Lane Multi-Pass. However, you're gonna see here that I forgot to take a screenshot of it. Fortunately, the friends at Parkeology graciously accepted this screenshot, saying that I had already used it. However, the ride itself was a little bit more annoying this time, as I had an 8-minute wait with that Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, which was not ideal. I also checked here, and the wait times for Tower of Terror were very, very long, generally around 110 minutes, and I saw it go up to 120 minutes, which of course is 2 hours. And at this point, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway was closed. So we really needed to open back up and give us a chance at a Lightning Lane. So yes, right now I'm really starting to worry. So we just have to keep rolling. We can't worry about it that much because we've got to go to Batu and get on Smuggler's Run. So I do love a good single rider line, and I think this is the best of them here. And you just gotta use it every time. Don't worry about that Lightning Lane. You can skip the pre-show with Hondo this way, so you go pretty much right to the front of the line.
Well, my friends, that could have been far too us. Okay, it's far twice.
Yeah, you do get stuck with engineering duties, but that is okay here. Not too worried about it. So even though we only picked up one coaxium this time with a very small pilot leading the way, well, again, that's not the goal today. We just need to get off of this ride so we can keep on moving. But perhaps Smuggler's Run is a harbinger of things to come, because with that one coaxium only, I guess this is the start of the troubles we might face here. But, you know, we're just gonna head on over to Rise of the Resistance and see if we can avoid the First Order. Alright, I am officially past the cast member here at the start of the single rider line, and it is 7:27. So, unfortunately here, once we walk past these stormtroopers, things are going to grind to a halt. And yeah, we're gonna be waiting a very long time. And yes, again, I will be spamming that refresh button. And then yes, you see here, I am now waiting all the way until 8:01 to get onto that transport ship. And that means we had 34 minutes in our single rider line, which is absolutely not what we want at all.
How brave, but ultimately hopeless.
Alright, Kylo, you may have a point there, but your crew is very inefficient. They really did a bad job of moving the single rider line, as they kept going fairly deep into that standby line to grab the perfect numbers instead of letting a couple single riders through. Next, we're up to Star Tours, and as we pod race and go to the depths of Naboo, I simply want to reload here and say that the only good news from that wait at Rise is that I got an 8:30 p.m. Tower of Terror Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, which is absolutely a huge relief because the show would have been over if we didn't get that with a 100+ minute wait. And Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway also just reopened, but at this point I could not find a single Lightning Lane, no matter how much I tried to refresh. And I admit there probably weren't any because it was already past 8 p.m. by the time that it was back online. So that means I simply had to change my plans, and I passed up Mickey and Minnie's for those two rides at the front of the park. So next we're up to Rock and Roller Coaster. We're doing that one first. I was a little concerned with how long Tower of Terror might take. And yeah, that's gonna prove to be true here, as you're gonna see in a second. So with a long walk and a pre-show, it was already 8:36 by the time I got on Rock and Roller Coaster, which is not great. So for Tower and Terror, I walked into the Lightning Lane line at 8:42, and of course, after the pre-show, I thought I was gonna be in okay shape, but then I saw the line, and it was very clear that the 110-minute wait was because there was only one tower working. So there was actually a very long wait after the pre-show. So it was already 9:01 by the time I got onto the ride. And no, I never got the Lightning Lane Multi-Pass for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway anyways, so it would have been a long standby wait. However, I didn't even get the chance to ride it because you can see I'm not even off the ride until 9:06.
Always stop. Oh, wait, we need it.
Alright, so again, we're one ride short at Hollywood Studios and we've officially lost, but we're gonna keep going anyways, so let's head on over to Magic Kingdom and hop on Jungle Cruise fighting through those firework crowd yet again, though at least it was still going on, so it wasn't quite as bad this time. And I made good time to Magic Kingdom, so I am going to count 6 minutes from the park entrance to Jungle Cruise. And since I was refreshing so often, I never got a Lightning Lane multipass here for Jungle Cruise, but fortunately, since we were during the fireworks, it was a very short wait to get on the line and onto the ride. So yeah, a nighttime Jungle Cruise is a little bit different and probably not as good as it is during the day, unlike several other rides, especially Tron. But hey, all we care about is hopping on and hopping off as soon as possible. Up next is the Magic Carpets with Aladdin, and I guess one consolation prize of not getting those Lightning Lanes at Hollywood Studios. Well, even though those are the only ones that really mattered, it was quite easy to get one for Magic Carpets and also for Pirates of the Caribbean. So yes, we're gonna knock these two out as soon as possible before the regular park close, and that these Lightning Lanes would go to waste. And off of Magic Carpets and heading over to Pirates, and you can actually see on the screenshot here that Pirates was down when I got that Lightning Lane, and it was down for a lot of the evening, so I guess I kind of got lucky here as it opened just a little bit before I left Hollywood Studios, and then it closed again just a little bit after 10, but fortunately I got in that perfect window where I was able to use the Lightning Lane right before park closed at 9:58. And since there was a little bit of a standby line due to that particular issue with the ride being down, I was pretty happy that I was able to get onto this ride. So as I get off of Pirates here, it is clearly past 10 p.m. so that means we are into extended evening hours. So I'm basically just going to use the same strategy as last time, which is taking a big clockwise loop all the way around Magic Kingdom. And again, there was a long line outside of the Haunted Mansion, so again, I'm going to skip it and go to It's a Small World instead. Now, I do want to just talk about extended evening hours as we go on It's a Small World, and they are only offered 2 times per week and only to deluxe resort, villas, and other select hotel guests. And they're only offered at one park on those 2 given nights, and Monday nights are almost always at Epcot. And then Wednesdays, well, it just pretty much depends on the time of the year, as this early part of the year was pretty much always at Magic Kingdom, which is great for us because that means the park is open the longest. But throughout much of the rest of the year, well, you're going to find it at either Animal Kingdom or at Hollywood Studios, so you really need to make sure to check that calendar in advance to know which of these parks it's going to be. So as we get off It's a Small World, we will head backwards to Haunted Mansion. So note that it is 10:35 getting off of Small World, so I have 10 rides to go in 1 hour and 25 minutes. But the good news is the line was completely gone at the mansion.
Now kiss the bride.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, there is just no time to kiss that bride. And we get off of Haunted Mansion, and I'm not the 1000th ghost there, so that's good news, and I'm off to the Regal Carousel, and we're going back that back trip to the northernly most part of the park, which is Under the Sea with Ariel. Alright, we're off of that horsey, and we're going to see Ariel. And yeah, at least this time we had no delays on Under the Sea. However, Ariel, it's another week and you are still not dancing. I just have to ask Ariel, what is up with that? What is going on? Why are you not working? You're kind of the star of the show. You really need to be fixed as soon as possible. Well, you know, I always have to make some snide remark about Under the Sea, but this time it worked out pretty well for us, despite Ariel not working. So let's get back on track with our clockwise direction and head on over to Storybook Circus and the Barnstormer. So let's just go ahead and take a look at basically the entire ride of Barnstormer. All right, let's get off of Barnstormer and go to the middle ride of our exact favorite run here, as these three rides are pretty much right next to each other. So we're off of Barnstormer and over to Dumbo, the flying elephant. And yeah, you just have to love Dumbo, very much a classic, and it's really great that it now has two different sets of Dumbos. And after we take this wonderful view of the Magic Kingdom, which is fantastic at nighttime, well, that means we will hop on off and head on over to the Mad Tea Party. And I simply want to point out here that once we get off of Mad Tea Party, that means we will have taken only 15 total minutes from the time that we got off of Under the Sea and off of Mad Tea Party. And even if you end up a little dizzy from spinning those teacups, you simply can't ask for more than that in this ride challenge. And no, this was not the most spinning that I've ever done, but you know, we're getting close to midnight here. We don't really need to go full speed. But full speed we need to go on the Tomorrowland Speedway. However, this time the Speedway was a little bit slower to get on, as it took 7 whole minutes to get into the car, which is not great at this time of the night. It is a little bit slower than most of these other non-main attractions, let's just say. And I guess I have to also admit that my driving was not so great, even though of course we put that pedal to the metal. And you know, it is a little bit tough to film, but hey, still, when you get this amazing view of Tron, you simply have to take it as it looks absolutely spectacular, even though of course I was very happy to get it out of the way in the middle of the day. And we're getting off of the Speedway and heading over to Space Mountain that we unfortunately missed the first time around. But that's okay, because amazingly, this is the second straight time where there was absolutely no wait on Space Mountain, and you can see that it was actually so fast that I was simply a blur in this picture as well, which is really bad. I need to work on those camera skills for the next time. All right, so next we are off to Winnie the Pooh, and I actually got stonewalled on the exit of Space Mountain that I could not sneak around several guests who were completely cutting me off. So I didn't even get to Pooh until 11:53, but fortunately this was a quick one, and even though there was a 10-minute posted wait, unlike the 20 minutes from last time, it was still basically a walk-on, and I had absolutely no problem getting on and getting off, and not even those heffalumps and woozles could stop me from being able to get off the ride and then walk just right across the sidewalk over to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So here I am at 11:57 getting into line for Seven Dwarfs, which is easily before the 11:59:59 cutoff. So it was posted here as a 20-minute wait, but I got a mere 10-minute wait to get onto the ride, which I have to say is pretty amazing to get on the ride at just 12:07. And so, for one last time, it is off to work we go. And there are our Seven Dwarf friends as we are in the mine looking to get all of those very pretty diamonds.
Well, here we are again, just short 49 out of 50. What can you do? Last time we had some major breakages. This time Liberty Bell didn't give us a shot, and then Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway put the nail in the coffin, as well as not any luck out of Tower of Terror. But hey, 49 out of 50 is pretty good. And I guess we have something to look forward to later. So until next time, farewell, Zoo Crew.
So 49 out of 50. Definitely the best yet for me. But this attempt was all about that Liberty Square Riverboat, as it absolutely wrecked the game plan. And had I gotten on that Liberty Bell at 11:28 a.m. and hopped off around 11:50, then did Tom Sawyer rafts, that took me 19 minutes in actuality, so let's just say it took me 20 minutes, I would have been off at 12:10, and then if we assume that everything else stayed about at the same pace, I still would have finished Epcot well before 5:30 and close to about, say, 5:15. So maybe I just would have had plenty of time and opportunity to knock out everything at Hollywood Studios. That said, Tower of Terror and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway still could have been a big problem for us with the lack of Lightning Lane availability and Mickey and Minnie closing down while I was there, and the Tower of Terror operating with just one tower really would have slowed everything to a halt. So yeah, I guess some weird things could have happened anyways. Plus, all the people that were at Epcot when it closed at 5:30, the easiest thing they could have done was probably head on over to Hollywood Studios. That didn't help either, which probably also contributed to the slowing down of that single rider line at Rise of the Resistance. But even so, even if we assume none of that happened, and merely Rise of the Resistance took half of the time in that single rider wait, like it was much better just a week earlier, well, I think I would have gotten off that Tower of Terror before 9 p.m. and would have gotten into the standby line for Mickey and Minnie's, and who knows how long that would have taken in actuality, since maybe no one would have really been in line for it at that point since it had just opened. So, I don't know, maybe if that line would have been short, I still could have made my way to Magic Kingdom very quickly, a little bit after 9, and maybe even gotten onto all 50 rides. And yeah, that is really frustrating when you think about it that way, but at the end of the day, you can see that there is always an amount of luck that goes along with the obviously large amount of planning and the skill and adaptability that you have to have throughout the day. So let's talk about lightning lanes, and this time I ended up using 23, which was one more than last time since I was able to get on both lightning lane single passes that I had, which was the first time in 3 tries that I was finally able to get onto Tron with that lightning lane single pass. So the only 2 lightning lane multi-passes that I got that I didn't end up using, first was for Space Mountain, which was just really bad luck as it turned into a multi-experience pass after I was cut off right at the entrance before that, and I did not make it back before that 10 o'clock park close, but that was not a problem at all since there was basically a walk-on at Space Mountain. The other one I got was Winnie the Pooh, which I only really got because I had to get something in Magic Kingdom since you get 3 lightning lane multi-passes, so I might as well have had something, and I easily could have modified out of it had Tower of Terror earlier or Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway at all had popped up the way we wanted it to. Besides Mickey and Minnie, the only one that I really wanted that I never got was at Jungle Cruise, as I wasn't able to find it early in the day to hop on, and also I was not able to get it at the end of the day, which was a shame, but fortunately, with the fireworks going on, I had that very short wait, and so that worked out okay as well. As far as wins and losses, I gave myself 2 wins and 4 losses, because how many losses can you really give yourself for that trouble that we had with Liberty Square Riverboat not opening when you needed to, so I had to have all those various issues taking the minivan there and back later in the day. But I think I certainly deserved wins for being first in line at Animal Kingdom and for making it onto that 5:30 Liberty Square Riverboat. And perhaps I could have given wins for a nearly perfect route at Animal Kingdom and at Epcot and even late night at Magic Kingdom, but there wasn't anything that truly exceptional happened to warrant a win in my book. I did take a loss for that Space Mountain breakdown that really messed up my entire rotation for the morning at Magic Kingdom, and I did count 1 loss for the Liberty Square Riverboat since it did not open by noon, which really would have helped the rest of the day. And then I gave another loss for Rise's single rider line, taking about 35 minutes, and then 1 final loss for the Tower of Terror, taking just way too long to get into the ride at the very end of the day. That cost me a shot to get onto Mickey and Minnie. So it was kind of just compounding problems that did me in at Hollywood Studios, with never getting that additional drop for Tower of Terror not happening, which was probably because there was only one tower working for most of the day, and then also Mickey and Minnie was definitely not working right because we didn't really get a chance to get any lightning lanes there either, and since it was closed almost the entire time I was there, it just simply messed up the entire route. So I just didn't give myself another loss there specifically because there was nothing really to pinpoint to, and also tough to pinpoint is wasted, as it's just tough to calculate, as I only gave Space Mountain a 4-minute delay, even though that really cost me to have to go all the way across the park to get onto Tiana, and then right back via the railroad, which was also very slow. And then I only gave the Liberty Square Riverboat 5 minutes in the morning since, you know, I just ended up kind of having to leave. And then I only gave myself 19 minutes wasted for the first Minnie Van because I would have had to fry speed my way from Remy to the parking lot so I could get my car to go to Hollywood Studios. So that knocked some time out there that I had to just estimate. And then the other 32 minutes for the Minnie Van back to Epcot. And while that coincidentally gave me exactly 1 hour of wasted time here, I think the more important thing to point out here is the travel time, because last time I gave myself 2 hours and 13 minutes, and that obviously went up this time, but that was probably because the non-Minnie Van trips were actually more efficient than last time, so maybe I improved just a little bit there. So while I think my routes went perfectly at Animal Kingdom on both trips, it certainly could be the case that it's better to do it all in one trip instead before leaving for the Magic Kingdom. Now, the only real trade-off there is that there's no guarantees that you will be able to get on a Main Street vehicle if you don't get it right at the very first thing in the morning, because there are no posted times. And after that 10 a.m. castle show, well, you're really taking your chances to grab that Main Street vehicle later. But that is certainly something that I need to take in consideration for the future, and I just might have to try it. But at Magic Kingdom, it was a bummer that my Space Mountain Lightning Lane time hadn't yet started yet, or I would have done that before the People Mover, which really could have saved me a lot of time on my route around the Magic Kingdom in the morning, because I really just wanted to stay in Tomorrowland until I completed Tron with about a 10:20 a.m. Lightning Lane single pass. And then at that point I would have gone on to Tiana, Tom Sawyer Island, and Liberty Square Riverboat had it been open, but of course it was not open. So my Epcot route went perfectly, so I have no notes. Or I suppose I should give a few notes here, as now that Test Track has returned, and that single rider does seem to work pretty well, so after you get on Mission Space you should go to Test Track, but it probably would be just a little bit quicker to go to the right of Spaceship Earth and then the left, so that you can go from Test Track right to Three Caballero, so that could save you just a minute or two. Clearly, Hollywood Studios did not go as planned today, but based on the cards that I was dealt, I think I did it the only way that I really could do it today. And with Mickey and Minnie having to be done after the 2 Sunset Boulevard rides, well, we certainly would not recommend doing that, but had I gotten a Lightning Lane, I certainly would have done Mickey and Minnie first. The last Magic Kingdom lap went as well as possible here. Maybe I was a bit lucky to have almost no wait on Jungle Cruise, but hey, that's exactly what you want when you're riding rides during fireworks. And the initial skip of Haunted Mansion has worked out both times in the last 2 weeks to let that final group of the standard park close folks clear out, and then just making that very quick backtrack to It's a Small World. So far, that's very minimal, and it seems to have worked out perfectly. And as always, I want to thank All Ears and Mammoth Club for their videos attempting these types of challenges, so that I knew that such a thing existed, and that of course I would be interested. And thanks to the goats of Parkeology and the Every Ride Challenge for making these official challenges that are just absolutely the coolest. And of course, yet again, to Kenny the Pirate for all the tips and tricks that he gave me before the run happened. So that's the end of another unsuccessful but close run. So it's back to the lab I need to go, and to see if I can reload and get ready to try again with an even better route. So until then, I am the SportsZu, and this has been SportsZu Recreations.